So last night I have a dream. And you know how with most dreams, you don't know how you got there, you're just there, and you're in the moment, you're in the scene? Well, I remember watching as the entire environment around me sort of pixelated into view. And I realized I was laying down on a hospital gurney. Somehow this cues me into the fact that I am dreaming, because we roll out of the elevator, and I look up and there's an elderly woman who I believe to be the nurse. We come out of the elevator, we look around, and I'm like, well, clearly I'm in a hospital. This looks like a very standard, stereotypical hospital. I'm probably being taken to a patient room. And once I get wheeled in, which was literally like not 10 seconds away from the elevator, it's like, turn out the elevator, down the hallway, burp, we're right there. So the nurse who's carting me around gets me settled in, and she draws the curtain, leans down, grabs my hand, and looks me in the face. And as she leans in, I realize that her eyes are sunken in, and she's probably not a living woman. And I don't even know if this nurse is human at this point, because I'm looking at her face that is sunken eyes, skeleton-like elderly woman, and I've got no issue with elderly people, but this person was past their expiration date. She leans in, and I'm observing her face, and I'm starting to freak out, because I know that this shit isn't right. This ain't okay. Something is terribly awry. So as she holds my hand, it hurts. And she leans in real close, very concerned, and she says, "You need to turn away from social media right now." She says this. She's in my face. I feel her breath on my eyeballs, my nose. She's breathing on me. I feel it. Panicking, I don't know if I actually said it out loud, but I tried saying, "And why the fuck should I? Can you fucking elaborate?" And this woman just tries to bring me close. Both hands, she's holding my one hand, brings it close. "Please, you need to turn away." And I don't know what comes over me, but I just start screaming like a fucking metalcore, deathcore vocalist. Just, "No, get away from me!" And the dream starts to end. And the same way that I pixelated in, I pixelate out. The freaky part was, as I am pulling away from the dream, this woman with both hands reaches in, grabs me around the head, and I feel it on my physical scalp. As I'm waking up, I'm still feeling her bony fucking fingers dig into my head, pulling my hair, and I pop my eyes open. Why the fuck should I turn away from social media? Now, for those of you who aren't aware, I do some pretty weird shit over on TikTok. I do a lot of witchy and spiritual content. As much as I have tried to turn away from it, it's just a hyperfixation. I get drawn back into it because there's something to overlook. There's something to turn over and go, "Oh, here's this is a new perspective about this. I've never noticed the speckle on that crystal before." Very much like that, and it just makes me start to make sense of things in a completely different perspective. And I do this to myself all the fucking time. So even though I have made a video here previously where I said, "Fuck witchcraft," here I am once again. And once again, I have been making content where I am interacting with divine beings, because for those of you who don't know, hi, I am a well-cultivated, practicing medium of about 15 years at this point, somewhere around there, give or take a few months. I've been getting pretty good at this, and I've been doing it for a while, and a lot of my content involves series of events that involves me getting way over my head in spiritual, spooky bullshit. And it's okay if people don't believe it. Nobody needs to believe it. I present it as entertainment more than anything else. But then I have that fucking dream. And I think this is one of these instances where I really think it's okay if I don't insist that people believe what I'm doing with my content. It's okay if it is believed to be a performance and nothing else. But there are some really seriously interesting, spooky, and downright frightening things that happen that I don't talk about that wind up helping me piece the puzzle together. Before I continue, let's remember, hi, my name is Ethan. I am the host of my DID system. There are 7 of us in total. I am the host and I wind up being the face and personality of our social media presence, though I'm not the only one that partakes in all of the good fun stuff that we get into. I am a trans feminine agender person. Pronouns are she or they, feminine neutral, thank you. But today's gender is metalcore and monster emo. Or, you remember that time in emo history where people were moving over from emo and kind of transitioning into scene? All I'm missing is a one-size-fits-all baseball cap that has a DC logo on the side, and there we go. That is my gender. And if you enjoy the content that I make here or over on the good old Clock app, please consider the thingy. I'm still holding it here because I'm trying to wait for... So that way you know the thingy is here. Oh, excuse me. Do you see this thingy? It is a very good thingy. It helps keep me alive. However, I must thank you for feeding it. Because thanks to those of you who have considered the thingy and followed through before, I am able to keep a roof over my head. I am able to continue doing laundry. I'm able to keep food in my face. And all of the good things that I need to do to get by. So thank you for that, and I want to thank you if you have considered the thingy. And if you are going to consider the thingy because of this video, I want to thank you preemptively. I appreciate you. Thanks to you, my whole life can go a little bit more smoothly. Let's get back to the video. Now, there are a lot of people on the greater social media, particularly in the witchy and spiritual and occult spaces of TikTok, who, when people give warnings like the ones that I'm about to give, they like to proclaim, oh, that person's being a fearmongerer. Am I, though? Now, don't get me wrong, when it comes to astral travel or realm traveling, there are some cool spaces that are the stuff of daydreams. There are places you can go where you're going to be completely fine and safe, and some people even take the time to meet up with one another on astral planes of existence. It's weird. If this isn't your normal cup of tea, I'm gonna talk about some weird fucking shit. For those of you who this is your typical cup of tea, I'm not trying to fearmonger because those safe places do exist, and you can have fun, and you can explore spiritual realms with minimal worry. But if you think that that's all there is, you have not stumbled into some of the absolute nightmare fuel that is out there. Now we are going to divert and reroute into another story, another fun little spooky experience that I have shared on my Clock app. But I feel like it is still in theme with the things that I'm sharing in today's video here. This story takes place right around the beginning of 2023. I'm spending a lot of time working through different spheres of the cliff off with the Infernal Divine, and I'm doing some really interesting magical mad scientist shit. One night I'm sitting here drifting off into sleep. I'm gonna pick up the camera for a minute. Here you see my bed. Look, it's a very nice bed. By the way that the pillows are arranged, you can kind of tell the way that I sleep. So I am sleeping right there. Drifting off. I didn't even realize that I had fallen asleep yet. Now, the thing about this spot is this is where I normally have my cigarette. There's my back door. There's my backyard. But normally, I'm looking out this way. So looking at this window, looking at my own reflection, this is uncanny to what I was experiencing in that moment in this dream, looking at this very specific shot. However, unlike the dream that I started off talking about, I was not aware that I was in a dream. I'm just standing here, having a cigarette, like I do very often. It's dark outside. It's dark inside. And I realize it's unnaturally dark inside, so I lean forward. Somebody else leans forward. That person that leaned forward didn't have a face. They were wearing a camouflage shirt, a baseball cap turned backwards. They didn't have a coat, but considering it was January, that was weird. No face. Total whole dude just leans forward, and they don't have a face. So I jerk myself awake, get right up out of bed, go out there, poke my head out into the hallway, and since I am incredibly skilled, since I've been doing the medium thing for a long time and I do talk to ghosts, I checked my surroundings, and the motherfucker was there! It had just happened! It had literally just happened! The dude that I just saw in my dream asleep on my bed was still out there right where it happened. That moment just fucking happened! The motherfucker was right there! Ah! That was when I decided that it was time to be done working the cliff off. And I stopped. That exact moment. Anybody who has spent a decent amount of time reading books by occultists who do stuff like this, oftentimes they will warn you that this stuff is fucking crazy. And to talk about it makes you sound crazy. Because there are others who have written books about stuff like this, who have had experiences like these, who warn people not to fucking talk about it because people are going to think that you are unwell. So here I am talking about it, inviting people to think that I'm unwell. Because you see, here's the thing. Not everybody knows where to go to find these books. Not everybody knows how to get those books, even if they are listed. But we are also at the precipice of an interesting phenomenon taking place on social media where more and more people are going into astral realms and doing really intense spiritual types of work like this. So people are jumping ahead, skipping steps, and just going out there, doing stuff. So do I continue to hold my silence? Or do I share with the audience, ask people to suspend their disbelief, and let people know this shit is fucking terrifying? I'm going with the latter. Now, before you ask, I don't partake in any drugs. The last time I drank alcohol was January 18th, and I have been sober since. And I am proud of myself to say that this is going to be the first St. Patrick's Day that I don't let a drop of alcohol pass my lips, because I'm enjoying being sober. Caffeine and nicotine are the only drugs that I partake in. Legal stuff. Stuff that keeps me going even though I should be resting. Stuff that I use to self-medicate because nicotine is an upper, and since I am incredibly neurodivergent, I wind up leveling myself out with both of these things so I can take on the day and still perform in a post-COVID, current COVID, capitalist hellscape. We also exist in a modern online occult space culture where people who share experiences like these are accused of suffering with spiritual psychosis. Oh my god, this is my favorite argument to tell people that if you are accusing somebody of spiritual psychosis and you are not a professional, and if you are a professional accusing somebody who is not your patient of suffering with spiritual psychosis, then you're a fucking ableist piece of shit. It's not your place. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So let's put the spiritual psychosis thing for just aside and humor the idea that there's actually very real spiritual, metaphysical, paranormal phenomenon that takes place that is just beyond our preconceived material speculations about how the world actually works and functions. Let's humor this for a moment. How then do we begin to try to explain this? Well, Ouija boards. See here I have a Ouija board right front and center of my altar. I always like to keep the Ouija board front and center of my altar. That way I can remind myself where it all started for me, and that was an unhealthy, undiagnosed, neurodivergent childhood obsession with things that are paranormal and occult in nature and theme. And the Ouija board was my gateway into these things. First things first, mundane before magic. This is sort of like a modern creed that goes hand in hand with trying to debunk things before we err to assuming things are paranormal, supernatural, or coming from a divine origin. And many a a lot of people have concluded that the way that Ouija boards work is through the ideomotor effect. I know a lot of people were on TikTok around the time that the rolling a stone or a key out of your hand was incredibly popular or trending. It looked a little bit like this, you see. And then you just supposed to move it and roll it, and then it starts to move, and it rolls over and falls out of the hand. This is the ideomotor effect. It's also how pendulums work. It's how the Ouija board works. What is the ideomotor effect? It is the theory that it is your subconscious that is superseding your foreconscious, is leading your body to make these twitches and urges to bring about a desired effect. Basically, you're hacking your own brain, so your body will do a thing whether you're aware of it or not. So this leads us to two conclusions. It's a simple parlor trick, or it is a way to communicate with the subconscious. Both, I think, are valid. One is far more dangerous, and that would be the interacting with your subconscious version. I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist. I have had special interests where I did a whole lot of crash course research because I want to know more about how my own brain ticks. So I'm not going to act as if I know the first thing about how the subconscious works, because in all of my research, there's a big, huge question mark about what the subconscious is, only things that are sort of pointing us in the direction of what it is. Basically, it's the things about our brain that we are not aware of that sort of still makes our whole world go around. It's where all of our biases, our traumas, our shadow self, the subconscious is where all of these dark things like to hide that we are not aware of in the foreconscious, in our normal, mundane, surface brain thinking patterns. So bringing this into a magical and occult way of thinking, there are many occultists and magicians, such as myself, who have this theory that suggests that things such as Ouija boards and pendulums and other idiomatic ways of using divination, we wind up interacting with our subconscious. But if we are actually interacting with some sort of external force, that then suggests that first that they are plugging into our subconscious in order to use our body like a puppet to relay messages to us. And I think that's actually more terrifying, even though it is what I believe. Now, before moving on, I want to talk about dreams for a moment. As far as I am presently aware, a lot of people wind up coming to the belief that dreams are a way that our subconscious wind up working themselves out, or it is a sort of projection of our subconscious and should be considered nonsense because it is nonsense. And this is usually what I default to or err to. I do not believe that every single one of my dreams is a spiritual encounter. For example, the dream the other night that I had where a conversation with my mother escalated into a verbal confrontation that then escalated into a physical altercation was not me actually fist fighting my mom in an astral plane. It was me rendering some mommy issues null through catharsis. So this brings me to another dream that I've had. So it's another story time with another dream that I'm going to share with you here and now. Sometime near the end of July last year, so 2022, I had accidentally fallen asleep on my couch in my living room. And while I was asleep, I dreamed. And in this dream, I am in a house, big, nice house. And I'm talking to a real estate manager. He was trying to sell me the house and trying to sell the deal. All I could tell is that it was a male individual. I never saw their face, but I'm looking around this kitchen. I believe it was a kitchen. because it somehow didn't have a divider between the kitchen and the living room. There was a stairway that just led upstairs that was in the middle of everything. In hindsight, this was just a dream. Because I'm looking through the cupboards, I'm realizing that there's stuff already in the cupboards, like cereal. So as the real estate person walks away, I'm discovering that this place is lived in, so I'm like, yo, what the fuck? So I go to try to find this person. Can't find them out front. Can't find them anywhere in the dining area or the kitchen or the living room. Mind you, there's still this big old stairway in the middle of everything. I find a hallway, and I go down the hallway. And there are several rooms down this hallway, and I'm realizing at some point that this hallway is far too long. In the hallway, I look to the side, open one of the rooms, and it is a child's bedroom. And it was sort of like my dream bedroom that I wish I would have had when I was a kid and never wound up having. And there are 3 children that are just hanging out in there. And I'm like, oh, sorry, excuse me. So I close the door and I keep going down. And I'm like, mad because this real estate agent is trying to sell me a house that is clearly lived in. So I look into the next room and all there is a TV set. There's nothing in there, just this small little, it's like a half of a bedroom. And all there is a little TV is sitting right there. And then I look in the TV, and it's a hyper-realistic nightmare version of Power Rangers. Being a huge fan of Power Rangers when I was a kid, and probably for a lot longer than I should have been, obviously, this is my own subconscious that has manifested in some way that I am now navigating through. But the Power Rangers episode that I watched was in incredible detail, and it was fucking spooky. So now, I have given up on looking on the other room, so I keep going down this hallway, and I emerge into something else. It looks like a college that I'm now in. And as I'm going, I'm realizing it's giving way to an auditorium where there is a very well dressed up cosplay version of Slipknot doing very good Slipknot performances for a talent show. So I'm just like, okay, interesting. So I go up the stairs, get out of the auditorium, and sure as shit, we're at a college campus. And then I realize I've been here before. In other dreams, I have been to this place. It's an astral way station. Astral way stations are a concept that are more or less discussed within certain contemporary occult online spaces. I don't know if they're really talked about in books because I haven't read them in any books. I have only happened upon them in chat rooms and forums of internet spaces. So I'm at this way station that I know I've been at before because I have met strangers in the cafeteria of this place that then later hit me up online and go, yo, were you in my dream? And then we're describing the same exact dream that we were both a part of. It's fucking weird. And what's also weird on top of that is the cafeteria opens up to a huge front area where buses, like city transportation buses, come and go, and people get on to go somewhere else, and people get off. My dream was connected to this way station where I have previously met others before while they were dreaming. So, if we're going to go off of my experience alone, I think dreams are connected to astral realms sometimes. There does appear to be a link from one to the other. Unfortunately, I am running out of time, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Moral of the story, this leads myself, to personally believe that there is more to the greater metaphysical world than we are presently aware of, and none of us hold the answers, and somehow our minds can be connected to the rest of the shit that's out there. Typically through dreams or through some kind of meditation, a altered state of consciousness in some way. The list goes on, and a lot of these concepts go into more modern and classical understandings of magical, mystical bullshit. And this brings me back to the beginning of the video, where I had a dream that I witnessed the beginning of the dream, was fully aware of the fact that I was dreaming the entire time, and I recall the dream dissipating. What the fuck? Did this literally just apparate around me so this random old woman that looked clearly past her expiration date could give me a warning to turn away from social media? Possibly! Here's the thing, I don't fucking know. What I do know is, at this point, it has become clear to me that I have definitely meddled around into things that I should not opt to have. And now random fucking spirits are trying to warn me not to continue messing around with this. However, I'm not going to turn away from social media, because this is the only place I can really point to the thingy and hope that people are willing to help me get by, because this is the closest thing that I have to a job at the current moment. You know what I very well can do, though? Quit talking about my experiences online and sharing them as a story while I'm actually interacting and engaging with very real spiritual entities through a staged performance to show others my actual very real experiences. I can definitely stop doing that. And I think it's probably in my best interest. On that note, I am going to wrap it up here, because I definitely needed to share this somewhere with somebody, but I didn't think that TikTok was the place to do it, and I really needed to make content before I was inactive for another week, because I'm going to be busy all next week. So yeah, I felt this was a good one to put up here on this fine Friday. I literally don't have any more time to continue going on. I'm running out of storage space on my phone. So if you're still here, thank you for listening, and I appreciate the time that you have given to hear me rant about spiritual, metaphysical mumbo-jumbo. As always, take care and much love.